Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365, your early look at the weather. We have meteorologist Greg Sellier with us today. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Sarah. Nice to be with you on, for a change, a pretty quiet day's worth of weather across much of the heartland, the plains, the Corn Belt, and pretty much like we talked about a few days ago on This Week in Agribusiness, nothing too much to get worked up about here this week going forward, at least in the shorter term of it across the plain states, cattle country, livestock country, and across the corn and bean complex.
I don't know. I've been hearing a lot of social media like scare and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff on multi-day severe weather. We're all going to have to buckle down. You think that might be just a little extreme?
A little extreme. People looking for hits, clicks, likes, or whatever you do there. The vernacular sometimes escapes me, but no, I mean, not that we may not have a couple of stronger storms, and I think the best likelihood for severe weather is probably south of I-70 and more so from the Ohio River on southward. Some of the southern states, yeah, but like we experienced across the plains and the Corn Belt and the Great Lakes areas, either the high wind or especially the severe weather aspect of it, don't see it on a widespread basis as we get towards the end part of the week and the weekend as well. But what's needed is more rain before we get into the fields, and that certainly is coming across those Corn Belt locales as well.
Well, very good. All right. Well, let's have you give us all the details. We'll put up the slides here and let you take it away.
All right, here we go. And across the Corn Belt, another cold, kind of wintry feeling morning. We had a couple of snowflakes into parts of the Midwest earlier on this morning. Yesterday, Monday, some snow through Wisconsin and Michigan. And that's still really where there's still winter going on. They were in the teens this morning over parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Otherwise, kind of a separation between some late season chill through the far northern and eastern Corn Belt locales, but you get back west of the Mississippi, more so west of the Missouri, it is feeling like springtime out there and should really stay that way for the foreseeable future. There are indications that some of the warmth that we talked about on the TV show in the Southwest builds into the southern plains and then heads into the Corn Belt locales here in the next probably 10 to 12 days. So if you're looking for soil temperatures to begin to come on up and maybe a little more kick on your crocus or croci, whatever the plural of that would be, and tulips, I think that'll get going here nicely in the next couple of weeks to come with no long-term cold air in sight. 90-degree weather into parts of Texas and Oklahoma, mid-90s in the desert Southwest. Some of those Imperial Valley, Southern California areas are going to be up around the century mark. And even for those folks for the last week of March, beginning part of April, that's a bit above average out there for even those folks. But it's really the heat and then the ratings on pasture lands through Texas, 70% poor and very poor. Winter wheat is heading through some of that area, 70% is headed. Moisture's needed, and this time of the year it tends to be all or nothing with thunderstorm activity. So still some issues down there ongoing with dryness and drought, and of course some of those issues too farther east into parts of Louisiana, where the southern states are in quiet mode right now. We did get some rainfall into parts of the Carolinas and some of the worst drought areas, anemic amounts, and I believe in an area south of Asheville by about an hour and a half of North Carolina, they've had some fires. A couple of thousand acres are up in smoke over there. Otherwise, Louisiana is heading the game with southern states planting on the corn side of things. 61% of the intended acreage is in the ground down there. And back to the west, 100-degree heat in some of those spring training sites, although I think they're packing up and getting the regular season going later on this week out of Arizona. But they'll be there up near the Century Mark, south of Phoenix and Death Valley, and probably the Imperial Valley up around 100 degrees as well. So usual heat, no, it's a little bit premature, but at the same time, with the lack of snow cover and moisture, we've talked about this many a time, Sierra, there's not much snow in the mountains of the southern Sierra or Arizona, New Mexico. You put that heat into it, you're already getting runoff going. And then when you get into the real heat of summertime, well, your reservoir levels and your runoff prospects are pretty much glim. And that's probably the story in the southern, southwestern parts of the country going forward with some of that heat out there. Snow cover, the last of which here is winding down over the northern Great Lakes region. You can see that through Wisconsin and parts of upper Michigan, lower Michigan as well, near Arrowhead, Minnesota, into the Red River Valley of the north. A lot of it still on the ground through a good part of the Canadian Plains, east of Winnipeg, over towards the northern Great Lakes region to get up there towards Thunder Bay, east towards Montreal, north of Toronto. They've had some record-setting snow for the wintertime season in that area north of the St. Lawrence up towards Hudson Bay and James Bay. And that's where these cold highs migrate normally in the springtime. So that's why we kind of keep an eye on the longer range element of snow, cold, and highs with their clockwise flow converging on south winds that take hold over the plains and Corn Belt locales. And that's why we think about at times how we're going to establish a wet weather pattern. And when that pattern gets going, it's tough to break down. And like we've talked about on previous get-togethers, it is parts of the northern and eastern Corn Belt that may see too much of a good thing with time. Again, pretty much next to nil in snow cover over the southern Sierra and the mountains of the southwest. It's really confined to Colorado, parts of Utah, and in through Wyoming. So we'll keep an eye on that developing hot ridge of high pressure over the southwestern part of the country. It will be a player as we get deeper into the spring and summer, more so into the plains and western Corn Belt locales this wintertime season as well. The D word and the heat wave weather vernacular getting kicked around, at least in our weather office around here. There's the maps and charts for Tuesday midday. A few sprinkles and patches of some light rain, just enough to kind of dampen up the pavement, a few hundredths of an inch here and there. Nothing of significance in anyone's gauge between Tuesday night into Wednesday, back into weak high pressure, what we call dirty highs, because there's not a lot of sun associated with them. And probably by the time we get to Wednesday night, Thursday, another little piece of energy breaks off and we get another few hundredths of an inch of rain into parts of the Corn Belt, the Midwest, maybe a little thunder accompanying that over sections of the Missouri Valley. The more significant moisture is moving back into northern California, the Pacific Northwest, as we talked about on the TV show. Moisture's been bountiful out there. They're in great shape with runoff prospects in mind. And down through the Rio Grande of Texas, that's much needed rainfall, maybe a little overdone on this map here, but at least some scattering of showers and thunderstorms. So we're going to put those three separate weather systems and another piece of this cold Canadian high to get together here over the next 5 to 7 days. And so that generates a wide range of weather temperatures, but hey, it's springtime. It's late March and April across the heartland and beyond. There's the rainfall in the next 48 hours, confined to Northern California, the Pacific Northwest, 10th to quarter, maybe in that stripe across the Corn Belt, and some showers and thunderstorms, a little overdone, but some localized short-term benefit to some of that moisture. Despite the moisture coming on down, they're still going to be in the low to mid 90s out west of Houston and Galveston. So some of that really appreciated in the sense of some topsoil moisture recharge, but subsoil still will be lacking, obviously, with that rain in through Texas. There's last week's drought monitor. You can see anything that comes down in Texas or the Rio Grande is a benefit, but a long way to go to get that moisture table back up to near where it needs to be. Southwestern part of the country still in the midst of extreme to exceptional drought, and a lot of the Corn Belt, a lot of the plains. There are some pockets that are in relatively good shape, especially the I-70 corridor and the southern sections of the Corn Belt. And then as you get into parts of the Ohio Valley, lower Mississippi Valley, good shape there, but you can see worsening drought over the mid-Atlantic region down through Florida, holding steady in the Corn Belt locales. And I don't think we'll see really much improvement, or when we do get improvement, it'll be time to get in the field. So it's a juggling act that gets to get played out in those Corn Belt locales come the planting season. So going forward here for the rest of this week, the bigger rains, as we talked about on the TV show, Gulf Coast, the Deep South, any severe weather potential, I think is really overblown. Not that there won't be a couple of stronger storms across parts of the southern Corn Belt, the Midwest, late this weekend to the weekend, but the widespread nature that we had and these moderate enhanced risks of severe weather, no, maybe a marginal risk, maybe a slight risk, that categorization. So overdone the way we see it on social media regarding the southern Corn Belt severe weather. Dixie, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Warmth into the Missouri Valley, some 70s across parts of Illinois and Indiana for the end part of the week. So we'll get a brief snippet of some springtime with the showers and thunderstorms with low to mid 90s in Texas, and again 100-degree heat across the southwestern reaches of the country. The upper air the next 5 to 6 days. By the time we get into Friday, there's that system coming ashore across the west. It settles into the plains, but it's a weakening weather system. It's not strengthening like the previous ones that we've experienced. So again, more or less just an anemic round of showers, some thunderstorms, garden variety, if you will. Rain's appreciated. The severe weather should be really ramped on down. And into Monday and Tuesday next week, still kind of a broad trough over the middle part of the country, kind of keeping as showery in the Pacific West and Northwest, to showery across parts of the plains and upper Midwest into the Northeast and New England. And there are those surface systems. One of noteworthy interest is one that's evolving over Friday and Saturday, moving into the Great Lakes region on Sunday. A fair amount of wind, not the 50 and 60-mile-an-hour gusts we had on previous storms. And there will be some snow, too, again, for the Dakotas, parts of Minnesota, the high plains of Nebraska, northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan, up on the UP. Not unusual for late March and early April up there. And then after the warm-up for the middle part of the country, a brief cool down, but we're already ramping up more moisture across the plains come late Monday and Tuesday, and another corresponding recovery on temperatures out there. There's the outlook over the next 6 to 10 days. There's no endorsement for the National Weather Service, but the general right idea, brief drop-off in temperature readings as we get into the early days of April. The warmth is spiking back up across the west and holding sway with some pretty good crop growth and development and planting opportunities away from any fires or dryness and drought in the southern and southeastern part of the country. And there's some optimism for some rainfall, including parts of Florida. A long way to go to improve their dryness and drought. Some soil moisture improvements in spots across the Corn Belt, the more significant moisture across areas of California and the western states. So, Sarah, kind of there you have it. Relatively short, sweet, and to the point today, with not a lot going on, not a lot of headlines. And I think for a lot of folks who've been dealing with livestock issues, feed, supplies, blizzards, severe weather, 60-mile-an-hour winds, nice to be able to just kind of take it easy and have a normal work day out there in the back 40 and closer to home as well.
Exactly. We don't need headlines.
No. It keeps the weather guy employed, but everyone needs a break from that once in a while. So this is the week and probably next week. And not that it won't be completely dry. We'll get some additional rains, but as I tell people on the radio, get it done while you may, where you can, the best you can, because I think it'll be sort of character building on the planting season, especially across the Corn Belt. But again, some opportunity to get additional drought relief going forward here in the weeks to come.
Very good. And we'll catch up with you again on Friday, as well as you'll have a report on This Week in Agribusiness this weekend, as you always do. So plenty of opportunity to tune in and hear what Greg has to say and get these updates. So we appreciate you joining us, Greg, and thank you for your time. And we appreciate all of you being with us as well.